if you try, if you want, if you know how to use it.
You know, there's a new tool in Meeticle, Pascal, that we can log here, and then from the mobile phone, the presenter can ask for permission to control
Yes,
the
yes. I mean,
slides.
you do that. Yes.
Okay,
If you want to
we
do
can
it
try
that
that.
way, I will just pass you the ownership, or you will load the slide yourself at your own.
No, I'll try with logging from my phone, and then I'll send a request when I present, and you should see a request
Yes,
to
exactly.
control.
I should see the you asking to present a slide where that you selected. Okay, we start. So this is the IETF LP1 working group meeting. We have just 1 hour, so it's very short time. So we'll try to move on quickly. So remember that this session is being recorded with the Meetico tool. So it's a bit unusual as a meeting. So first, the usual IETF best practice still apply, whether you're at home or you're in the room, and more specifically, we attract your attention to the BCP 25 about anti-harassment procedure. So if you feel that there is some harassment going on, then you need to contact the Ombuds team, and there is a link on this page. And then, obviously, as usual, if you're aware of any IPR on a subject which is being discussed today, whether it's your IPR or somebody else's IPR, please mention it during the meeting or after the meeting. And as I said, it's a bit unusual for a number of reasons. First, yes, we have this mixed environment where we have in-person people and remote participants. And then the other unusual thing is we have the youngest participant of our working group. We have Theodore. So Alexander will not be with us, but almost. But in the heart, he will be with us, and Theodore, his new son, will be with us as well in the heart. So
Pascal,
if
can
you're
you readjust your mic because we lost you a little bit?
oh,
Just your mic, I think you're not in.
okay, I can move on towards the mic. It's very unusual. This mic normally works fine. Okay, if you're in person, please join the Meetico using the Unsight tool. And that's basically the lightweight Meetico. And what's important is when you want to join the queue, you don't join the queue by just going to the mic as you did before. You need to click on the Meetico. This is really important because that will let the note taker see your name. And so it makes things easier. And then the chairs can observe the queue, whether they are in sight or not. If you're on site, please keep your audio and your video off. Remote participants, it's as usual. So keep your audio and video off because we could turn you off, but it's much better that you do it by yourself. And preferably use a headset so there is no loop with the sound in the room. And then again, Alexander will not be with us, but a thought for the new dad, and welcome, Theodore. So you've been there for almost 2 days now, so you know the usual resources. So you get the agenda, the preparation for Meetico, but hopefully you've done it before. If you need any assistance, then you've got this URL here. Now, for the minutes, we have 2 volunteers. That's Dominique and Ivan. So I see that they've joined. I also see Valio. And I will try to take some notes as well. For remote participation, you can also type on the chat on the left of the screen, and that's bridged actually with our Zulip experiment. So you will find people on Jabber, you will find people on the chat on the Meetico tool, and people in Zulip, all of them interconnected together and bridged. So from the agenda that we published, there is a little change. Alexander is not with us, so we will skip his session. And in the end, we give more time to the discussion on the mesh that you will find on the next page. So this quick administrativia, discussion by Juan Carlos right now on the Compound Act document, which is ready for publication. Then Laurent will talk about the Yang data model. Then we'll welcome Diego to speak about the SHIC over Sigfox, Anna, SHIC over NB-IoT, and then that's where the more discussion piece of this meeting starts. It will be pretty much 1:35. We will have Carles talking about SHIC on 822.15.4, and after the interim where we started discussing the issue, basically be more specific on the role of device and app, what that becomes when you have a mesh peer-to-peer. And based on that, Laurent will give us information about a new draft, which will be or has been just now published, where effectively SHIC is employed over mesh and how to structure the rules in that kind of case. Status of the working group. Well, not much change. We are very close to sending for publication the Compound Act document, and NB-IoT is not far behind. Young data model is mostly there as well. So we are very close to completing most of our work items. And that's pretty much it. In the interest of time, I will skip directly to you. Do you want to try to propose slides, Juan Carlos, to see if you can advance them on your phone?
Hi, Juan Carlos Zúñiga. Actually, if you can share them, then I can request to control them on my phone.
Oh, okay. I can share and push control to you. I mean, no worries. So let me do that. So
let's see. Okay, so now I'm requesting, I guess, control.
I don't see your request. Let me just give it to you. It's going to be easier. So you should have it now.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, works. Perfect. So, hi everyone, Juan Carlos Zúñiga, affiliation Cisco, and this is an update on the LP1 SHIC Compound Act document that, as you heard, is now on the Shepherd's review. So I'm going to get right away into the comments that we got
Sorry, Juan Carlos, do you hear me?
Yes.
We have an issue on the remote. Is we are not seeing you actually. We are seeing Eric and Laurent, but we are not seeing you. So
okay, there's the other camera, but
yeah, that's good. Yes, that works. Okay, please continue. Sorry for that.
Otherwise, you can type Mythical on the chat and then ask them to switch the camera if you want, because there's two cameras, one pointing to the public and then one pointing to me.
So the one that's pointing to you was actually pointing to Laurent. So Eric turned it. It's almost good. But we could turn it a little bit more.
We see you. You're just on the left.
Yes, if you go nearer, Laurent. No, that's the wrong direction. Towards Laurent is good.
I don't think you can move, but you can.
Yes, it's good. That works. Yes, that's much better. Thank you. Sorry for the interrupt.
No worries. Thanks. So. So we got a few comments from Pascal on the Shepherd's review. So the first ones are easy. The document is now clearly indicating that it updates RFC 8724 in the tag. Then also we added text to the abstract and introduction about the clarifying that the document applies only to the account error part of RFC 8724. The first long one that it was a little unclear is the text. We had some text about the placement of window number 0. And of course, for us as implementers, it was easy, but now we understood that it wasn't very clear, the text itself. It was referring to one of the requirements on the document is the order of the windows have to be specifically from the lowest to the highest, and therefore, if ever you include window number 0, there's a specific place where this identifier has to go. So then I think we cleared it up. We added a new paragraph specifying exactly what we meant by that. And this is not only to comply with the requirement about the order of the windows, but also it helps differentiating with padding bits if ever these are included. Then there was a comment about a sentence that was not clear to understand and looked like it was copied in full, and indeed it was a copy-paste error. So we omitted the old text and we had just the new text twice, and therefore there was no difference in between the old and the new. Now the old is actually the one from 8724, so it's clear that what is the updates. And
Carlos,
also,
I don't know if you see the queue with your phone. Can you monitor the queue? There was Dominic on the queue.
for some
Can you
reason,
see the queue from your phone?
no, for some reason we lost the big screen. I see it in the little laptop, but
Okay, so maybe Laurent, can you handle the queue so you can make a sign to Juan Carlos?
yeah.
Yes, okay, but
So let me just go through this slide and then we'll take the question from Dominique. The last point is the flagging the new behavior for the L0 usage, since the receiver already had basically when you send the ACON error, the receiver could we know that we could lose the message, but then we added a new behavior on the sender about the choice to send or not the chic ACK, depending on, let's say, network conditions. So I think we can take the question from Dominique before going to the next slide. Hi.
Yep. Well, yeah, actually, I was going to ask if you wanted questions in the middle of the presentation or at the end. So up to you.
I think we only have one more slide, then it is about next steps, so we can take the question now.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I just read the new version that you published, and yeah, sorry it took me a while to work on this for several reasons, but I still have a few comments on the text. Like there are a few typos, a few mistakes. So if you allow me, if you tell me where the source code is located, I can submit pull requests to the text, and then we can also discuss the more material issues on the mailing list, maybe. Like the new paragraph you inserted on the position of the W window 0 has a few mistakes in it, I think. It says the first, the padding bits are not confused with the window number after the first ACK, something where it should be the last, and a few things like that. But, nothing serious. But I think the text needs a little bit of polishing still. So if I can contribute, I'll be more than happy.
Yes, please do. It's true that there's a couple of paragraphs that were added to respond to these comments, but those paragraphs are indeed new. So if there are corrections or anything we can do to enhance the text, please send us the comments. Dominic, on the list, it will be the best.
Okay. Another comment I had just to mention in my first review was about distinguishing the new compound ACK with the abort message, and so you provided a few lines that tell that somebody else, the profiles must tell how they are distinguished, and so it's kind of pushing the resolution of the problem to somebody else. So I laughed when I read your text. Too bad the LP1 RFC, I'm sorry, the LoRaWAN document is already published. So if you're telling now that the application document to a specific technology must specify something, then it now means that the LoRaWAN guys cannot use this new extension, or maybe they have to write another RFC or something. So I think we could solve that issue in this document rather than pushing it to somebody else. What do you think?
I think we can add. I'm just thinking what would be the procedure, because it's true that this document somehow updates the baseline that already was used by LoRaWAN to produce their profile. So it's true. I think it'll be too heavy to do an update to the LoRaWAN for this, but we could add an annex perhaps, for technology specific details. That's my first-hand thinking, but of course it'll be up to the group and mainly I guess the LoRaWAN guys. But what will be the best? Okay, now we see the line. But yeah, I think it's a fair discussion to have on the list.
Okay. Yeah. So I need still some thinking, but I think we can do something easier on the existing technology application drafts.
Okay.
So yeah, give me a few hours of work and maybe a few days of clock time, and I can propose something.
All right. So then I guess that the last slide I had is on if we had addressed all the comments, but it seems like there's going to be a couple arriving that are relevant. And my understanding is we are going to have the shepherds transferred also to Alex, who's not right now here. So probably the best would be to take it to the list, and then we don't push the button right now. So we wait until we clear these comments from you, and we hear from Alex on his Shepherd's review to push the button.
Yes, it might be we have to discuss, but if Alex is out because of the birth of Theodore, we might again switch Shepherd, and maybe Anna or Laurent, but Laurent is co-author, so probably ask Anna if she's willing to do the Shepherd.
Okay.
So we are exploring that because Alexander might be away for a few weeks, and if we get ready early, so that waiting for his return is not necessarily.
All right. So thank you very much. I think I'm over my time. So.
Oh, and by the way, I like your idea of doing an annex for the already published documents. So in this case, if you take that approach, please mention that you update the LoRaWAN RFC as well, right? Because you will be proposing how the LoRaWAN RFC applies this draft.
Okay. Thanks.
Continue with our agenda.
We don't hear you.
Oh.
So
I switch on and off. It's really bizarre. So the next, Laurent, is you actually presenting the Young Data Model. So I will be pushing the slides and you will be telling me next slide, right?
okay, yeah. Okay, so I will present the Young model for the SHIC rules. So it's a work that has been done for many years, and now I think we reach something very nice. And next slide, please. Pascal? Yeah. So this Young model is has a new version now to say that it's really the last one. And it's cover only what has been published until now. It's mean RFC 8724 and 8824. So inside we have the rule definition. So for the three kind of rule we have, compression, fragmentation, and no compression. We have also the identifier that are used in the SHIC rule. And as we say, compound ACK and AOM are not in that model, but with Young we can easily augment the model with new features. Next slide. So here is a vision, global vision of the Young tree. So we see the different kind of rules. So what has changed since the previous version is especially the naming. So we have a naming that is closer to the RFC, so it's easier to recognize which field is in correspondence with the RFC. And we also add something that is called max interleave frames, that is also specified in 8724, and say how many frames can be on the air, and it can be something smaller than what the D tag allows. So here are all the changes. We have also made some relation between the different variables, and we are able to, for example, for compression, to say this field is only needed if we are in Acon error or in another mode. So next two slides, please. So you can go to the next one. And now what I will present more is what we have done at the hackathon to test this. So it's this hackathon and the previous one. So the data model has been implemented in OpenShift, and we are able to validate using Json this model and to produce some JSON version of the rule. So here is some simple rule we have used. And in the next slide, so next slide, please. We have the JSON representation of these rules. And if we look at the size of the global rule, here it has been cut, is about 2,500 bytes to represent a rule. So during this hackathon, we have changed the representation and we moved to CBOR and use CoreConf. So that's the next slide. And here the same rule can be represented in 400 bytes. So it's a reduction by 6 of the size, which is quite nice. Of course, when you look at this, it's not very easy to understand. But if you go to the next slide, we have the same thing in the diagnostic representation of CBOR. And there is few mistakes, but because it was done during the hackathon, we have correct them. But what we can see is that we have something that is very compact. And if we look, for example, at what is the largest part of the representation or CoreConf representation is the identifier. For example, if you read, you see 6 and then a large number. So 6 means it's field ID, and then you have the reference to the field ID. So if we can have very short seed for these values, so of course the rule will be smaller. So the next things we discover, and it's a funny thing about the rule, is that when you do the seed, in fact, you have a reference that is the first entry. So for example, for rule, you have this big number 91. And then when we look at some values that are present in all the rules, like rule ID length and rule ID value, they are at a distance of 29 or 30 from the reference, which means that in the CBOR coding, we use 2 bytes. So if we had a delta that was shorter, then we will use only 1 byte to represent that. So of course, it's just something funny right now, but maybe we will have to discuss on a way to optimize that. Or I think that maybe one solution will be to, when we will do the numbering of seeds, to change the order. And I think it's possible in CoreConf, because we just have to augment the model once, starts with a small value and then small model and then increase it by introducing new things. We can have rule ID and rule ID length that will be more compact in the representation. So what we have to do now is to check with CoreConf guys if it's correct. So I know that there is some people in the room or virtually in the room that know very well CoreConf, so we can discuss about that. But I think it's quite interesting because we goes to something that is very compact and can be used to manage the rule on a constraint environment. Okay, so if you have questions, so that's all for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Laurent. And we will bring the next presentation, which is Diego for Chic over Sigfox. So let me share the slides. Here, Diego. Okay, I will.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Diego.
Okay. I
So
can
do
take
you have the
control
app? Can you control the slides? I just sent you the ownership.
Oh, how do you use the thing?
Otherwise, just tell me to move the slide myself.
I am trying to take control of the slides right now.
I sent you the control. Oh, you're sharing your own deck. Okay.
Chic over Sigfox.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, you should be seeing that, and I can control them all right.
Yes, that's all
Okay.
good.
So hello, my name is Diego Vistuba. and I'm from NICLabs in the University of Chile, and I am one of the co-authors of the SHIC over Sigfox, the SHIC profile of Sigfox, and I'm here to present the last draft updates that we have done since the last IETF meeting. So we added two major changes to this draft. The first one is that we added two different configurations for the uplink icon error mode on the 2-byte SHIC header. These two configurations are parameter configurations. You know that all the values that we need to define for SHIC to work. And well, option one in this case we labeled only option one. Allows transmission of medium-sized packets, which are up to 480 bytes long. And the second option allows transmission for larger packets up to 2,250 bytes long. And this is more than enough for us to comply with the IPv6 MTU requirements, which is 1,280, if I'm not mistaken, bytes. So that is one of the two major additions. And the other one is the RCS field, the reassembly check sequence field. In our case, for our use cases in the Sigfox network, for rules where the number of fragments in the last window is unknown, where we don't know how many fragments does the last window contain, this RCS field must be used, must be present at the end of the header, and it should indicate the number of fragments in that window. This number of fragments is of course encoded in bits, and it includes the old one. Well, previously we didn't use the RCS field in the SHIC profile, since Sigfox has its own error connecting mechanism, and we use that for to check the integrity of the whole reassembly. But this new addition of the RCS field makes us avoid ambiguity while checking the completion of the whole SHIC transmission. And okay, so the next steps for the draft, we need to, of course, update the the figures describing these new configurations, how they look, like the ordering of all the parameters, and how these fragments would look like while in graphic representations. And we also need to update the SHIC over Sigfox implementation. We have our own implementation to test all these changes, and we need to know how these changes affect the performance of the whole protocol. So this particular step, this updating of the Sigfox implementation, has been underway since the hackathon on Saturday, and we still need to solve more issues on that, but it's underway. So, and that's it for my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, please make them. I would be happy to ask.
The only question is, how close do you think you're to Workgroup last call? Do you think you will? What will happen before now and we ask for Workgroup last call?
Sorry, I don't hear you very.
Oh, so my question is, what steps do you think you need before Workgroup last call? Will you do a presentation, as you said?
Sorry, Juan Carlos Zúñiga here on the queue. It's Pascal. I know that when we're in the mic, because the speakers point to the back,
Right.
it's really hard to understand. So let me repeat your question. He's asking what is needed before we go to last call. So what is needed before completing the document?
Okay, I think that before asking for a last call of this SHIC profile, we need to first make sure that we do not have any corner cases left, because that's why the last updates of this SHIC profile have been taking care of corner cases that we find when we are trying the SHIC over Sigfox implementation. So we have some tests that we need to do, and to make sure that the new additions doesn't break the whole protocol. And if we are okay with that, and if we have clarified all that updates in the draft, then I think that will be the final updates to make this an RFC, to take this to a last call.
Thank you very much, Diego. That was
Okay,
great.
thank you so much for your attention.
Welcome in the group and presenting. So next is SHIC over NB-IoT, and that would be Anna presenting. Anna, do you want me to launch your slides, or do you want to launch them yourself?
No, please do it for me.
Okay, I'm on it. So where are you? And I will just hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Pascal. So I'm presenting the version 7 of the draft SHIC over NB-IoT. Next slide, please.
Control, Anna. You could see the bar behind the slide. You should be able to move them.
I cannot hear you very well.
Oh, okay. I gave you control, Anna.
Oh,
You should be able to move the slides.
I see. Yes. Okay. This is better than my calligraphy. Thank you to Carles. I don't know why my slides are like this, but we received the review from Carles. Thank you very much. There are 4 principal questions. The first one is more structural of the document to better representate what is configuration than what is use cases. So we need to work the structure of the document in the first time. Then the second question is about the first use case where we are using SHIC in the radio link between the device and the gateway, the node B. So this is really the radio link. And in NB-IoT, as in any 3GPP network, this link has a protocol stack which already introduce integrity protection, reordering, segmentation, and the data transfer. So the only thing missing is to put, as they have already done ROC, to put SHIC in the PDCP layer and send the IP packet compressed. In this case, the question from Carles was why we are not using fragmentation in this case is because the lower layers of the radio link already bring this feature. So we don't really need that PDCP layer makes fragmentation because its segmentation is done in RLC. So we are only taking the use of header compression for this use case. I don't know if it's clear. I have not found any use where we can say, even though RLC has already segmentation, we can add the use of fragmentation in the PDCP layer. So if you have an input layer in this use case, we can discuss. If not, I go to my next slide. The second question that is really important is about the draft status. We put this draft as an informational draft because it's only giving a guidance of how we can use SHIC in the 3GPP networks as NB-IoT. We propose some parameter values following the RFC 8724 and 8824. we are not changing any feature or giving new features. And the other thing, I look for the 3GPP documents at the IETF, and most of them, or even though all of them, are informational. So the question is, do we need to make a proposed standard for this SHIC over NB-IoT, or we keep the use of informational as all the 3GPP documents at the IETF? And my first answer could be, why not put it as a BCP, as a best practice, something that we normally use and we can use in this way. So it's more a question for...
Eric, would you have a recommendation? Please. Eric?
Eric.
So Pascal, we don't hear you at all, but I will simply assume that you were giving me access to the mic. If we specify a protocol in the same way we specify a protocol over LP1 or Sigfox, it should aim as an instance status as standards. BCP is really not the right thing to use, and informational, I think, is also the wrong thing to do. It's not because all 3GPP are informational, most probably simply because they are pushing, we are rewriting under an IETF RFC something which has been specified by 3GPP, and we want to get them in the public or whatever on the IETF. Because typically when we import standards out of another SDO, they become informational here through the ICE model, or it is sponsored. But in this case, it's like LoRaWAN, Sigfox, so at 99.99%, it should be standards.
Okay.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, thank you. So that answers my question. So the thing is, we changed the draft status to standard. Okay. And the third important point is that 3GPP use IPv6 and IPv4. So the question is, does we are going to develop the solution for IPv4, or do we skip this part?
Eric, can you hear me now?
So Eric Vink again. So it's more a question for the chair, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure Pascal will agree with me. LP1, if not mistaken, is chartered only for IPv6. So the question is clear here. The answer is clear.
So if they are using for IPv4, is they have to develop their own solution?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll skip that. Thank you very much for your answers. And then after this modification, we would like to see if it's possible to go to last call for this document.
Okay. I don't know if Pascal can be here.
I tried to change the icon back, but it didn't hear me correctly now.
Your mic is, try to speak more in the mic because we cannot hear you very well.
I'm close to it, I'm kissing it. There must be a level somewhere that I cannot see. Because I'm completely touching my mic.
Okay, here is good. Don't move, just talk.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we are ready to launch the workgroup last call for this document. If you feel the current release is good, we can launch it right after the meeting. I have no objection to that.
Okay.
Okay, so to do for the chair, launch the workgroup last call for the NB-IoT document.
Thank you.
And sorry for the mic. I mean, I'm using that mic all the time, and I never have a problem. I have conferences all days. I don't know what happens. And I can't find the volume button in the settings. So, okay. So our next presentation will be Carles for SHIC over 802.15.4. So, and mostly the device and role and app roles. So I will just share for you and then give you the ball, Carles.
Okay, we have a strange vision of the slides that have been
Yes, it's the rendering is very bizarre. I mean, okay, I checked my own slides and realized they were kind of broken. And so I uploaded my own PDFs for every group I'm presenting to. It seems there is really something wrong.
Okay, but I think if it's good for you, Carles, to start with that and to not lose too much time and have discussion about that.
Yeah, I hope we can.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I hope we can make it as it is. Okay, so my name is Carlos Gomez, and I'm going to give a presentation on the problem of using the dep and app roles for using SHIC header compression over 802.15.4 networks. This problem arises actually when trying to write a draft, which is the one on the slide, which is precisely about using SHIC header compression in 15.4 networks. So the terms dep and app have been defined for the first time in, sorry, I'm not seeing the.
Okay, I think Pascal is sharing another version.
Please speak, I'm trying to share my screen here. So go continue and I will.
So I see that the screen share is being started.
Yeah, I'm on it. I'm on it. Where is it?
So it's quite, I think it's blocked. Can you go back, Pascal, to, oh, okay, we have it now.
Yeah, sorry, I could not locate this application, so I had to do screen share, and since I'm using 3 screens at the same time, I had to scroll my screens. Sorry. So you should be back.
Okay,
can you see it?
I'm seeing the SHIC over Sigfox slides.
Oh, okay. It's wrong for me. I don't know if I effectively got them, because if you uploaded them directly, yes. No, actually, I don't have your slides. I need to go and fetch them for the site. I mean, sorry for that. I did not download a copy.
Can you share, Carles? Do you have your slide on your desk? Or?
Yes, I have the, yeah. So shall I share them from my computer? Yeah. Okay, so.
I thought I had a local copy.
Okay.
Yes. I grant it to you. Yeah, that's your screen.
Okay, so can you see now the slides?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so then I'm going to give this presentation about the dep and app roles in 15.4 networks. And the dep and app terms were defined first in the LP1 overview RFC 8376, which defines the terms dep and app. The dep is the sensor, actuator, device, or object which corresponds to the constrained device, whereas app corresponds to application or application server, which is sort of network side infrastructure. And then the base SHIC specification, RFC8724, uses also these terms, dev and app, and then also provides a few more details about app, such as it runs an application sending, receiving packets to from the dev, or it's the endpoint of the application level protocol on the internet side. So also in the base SHIC specification, there's the figure showing the LP1 architecture, where we have on the left the constrained devices, which would correspond to the role of dev, and then on the right we have the application server, which corresponds to app. Also related with these terms, there are two other terms defined in 8724, which are uplink and downlink, which are based on the dev and app terms, because uplink means the direction from the dev to app, and downlink is the other direction. So in LP1, of course, the dev and app roles fit well the scenario, because these terms have been extracted actually from the LP1 architecture. So in that case, the SHIC entity that needs to perform compression or decompression knows whether it corresponds to dev or app. In RFC 8724, compression rules for some of the IPv6 and UDP header fields, such as the prefix, the IID, or the port, are expressed in terms of dev and app, and not by the position of these fields in the headers, such as source or destination. So this is done as an optimization. It has the advantage that the same rule can then be used for compression, decompression for both directions. So then it means that, for example, when a dev has to compress, it knows that the source address or port in the packet header corresponds to dev as written as the address or port in the rules. So this is when the compressor looks for the rule which is the best match. And then in the other direction, when a dev has to decompress, then it knows that what will be the source address or port is what corresponds to what is expressed as app in the address port written in a rule. So what about now trying to use the same roles for SHIC header compression over 15.4 networks? Well, there's a subset of them, such as star topology networks, where the constrained devices may talk to some network-side app. In that case, the dev and app model fits well, as in LP1, because it's actually the same underlying architecture. However, then there can be peer-to-peer topologies, for example, where in some scenarios, we might have two constrained devices talking to each other. So in that case, we may have the question of, well, which is the role that corresponds to each? Because according to the definition, both could be candidates to be dev. So then how do we use SHIC compression, decompression in this case? Here are some examples. We might have node A on the left, which is a light sensor that may transmit a message, for example, when the light intensity is too low, to the other node on the right, which is node B, it is a light bulb. And in this case, we might say, okay, let's try to assign dev and app roles to these devices. So for example, we could say node A is dev, node B is app, and we could write the rules accordingly beforehand. And then we might also consider that scenarios may get more complex, like adding a node C, which might maybe want to control the threshold setting of the light intensity sensor. In that case, which are the roles that would correspond to each? Perhaps we could start by saying maybe light sensor could be app, the threshold control could be dev, or maybe we might want to try to simplify things a bit and try to have node A being always the same role, such as dev, in all its interactions with all its endpoints. But then another question arises, which is, can we ensure that the device will only be dev or only be app for all its interactions with all its corresponding endpoints? So then here we can figure out that maybe we have two main options to consider when trying to use SHIC header compression in this sort of peer-to-peer topologies. The first option, option one, is trying to stick to what is defined already in RFC 8724. In this case, each device would need to know whether it is dev or app when talking to another device, and this might need to be for any possible communication endpoint. And in that case, if we follow this approach, the uplink and downlink terms would be specific to each pair of endpoints. So here we might need to provide some additional context to the nodes so that they know whether they are dev or up for each potential endpoint. Option 2 would be trying to define the use of source and destination in the rules instead of dev or up. However, this has a drawback, which is that it requires one rule for each direction. So this might potentially duplicate the number of rules that we are considering. And also new terms such as uplink or downlink might need to be defined. So this has been discussed in a couple of LP1 interims. And by the way, tomorrow there will be also a presentation on the related draft in 6LO. And so far, I'd say that there seems to be some rough preference for maybe option 1, because here we rely on, we don't need to modify RFC 8724. And however, option 2 has also been considered. So yeah, these are like 2 main approaches we may want to think about. So what is the feedback from the working group?
You've got Laurent in the queue, Carlos. Can you see the queue? It's Laurent.
Okay, yeah, I'm just seeing my slides on the screen on my laptop. Yeah.
I don't know where to go as if it's here or so I stay here. Yes, I think there is another option. It's I like the first one because you keep the same naming, but what you can do also is to avoid to have a bidirectional rule. And you can have, for example, a device with up or a device with down. And this way you can change the nature of your rule. So now it's symmetric. It's mostly because of the bidirectional in the direction.
Then does it mean you would need to have one rule for one direction, another rule for the other direction?
Yes, you can have this, and it means that you can handle them in different way.
Okay. Okay, any other, I'm not seeing, I'm just seeing the slides on my screen, so I don't know if there's any other question or any other.
We have
Yes,
Dominique.
it's Dominique.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a good idea. I'm just throwing some ideas in here. The up, down, and by fields or qualifiers are per field. Can we use them just for the app and the dev fields and play with them so that we tweak the meaning of up and dev using those? So it's not a rule that applies to up or down. It's each field within a rule, right? It was kind of a shortcut, Laurent, when you said you can have one rule for up and one rule for down. We can have one same rule with the fields marked up and down. I'm not sure if this makes sense. Just ignore if it doesn't.
Eric, can you hear me better now? I tweaked my mic, but I don't know if it's better.
So, Pascal, I didn't understand what you said, but anyway. So, Carlos, thank you for this document. I just wonder whether you should make this document broader than the 15.4, because it's applicable to any network where there is not a master. We cannot say master slave, but dev app, right? So, change the title and change the file name maybe next time. And good job.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not sure if there's any other comment or question. I just see my slides, nothing else on my screen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes, I was wondering if, because we're defining a format for 822.15.4. So I was just thinking, is there a way to have just a separate bit in the a bit that does not exist today, but you would put in a header that would indicate when you send something, whether you send it from the perspective of a dev or from the perspective of an app? basically. And so basically the guy who receives that would look at the rule and say, oh, he has sent that as a dev, so let me treat it as an app. You see? I mean, we're not necessarily working for legacy. I mean, classical LP1. So you're doing that for a new application.
Yeah, I might need to figure out exactly all the details about that and whether it might be an issue or not. But yeah, I see the idea. So yeah, let's definitely take it into account. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any more questions?
No. Not.
So Laurent, you're next.
Okay, can you present the slides? So it's just a draft we wrote with Ivan after an interim meeting where we have already this discussion, and it was very interesting because in fact when SCHC has been designed, it was really on star topologies, and we improve a little bit. For example, in OpenSCHC, what we have is, for example, when you are in the core, you have to select to which device you have to send this information. And it is not specified in the RFC. In RFC, this is only the way you do the compression, but now how you do the device selection. So in OpenSCHC, you see on the top left of the slide, before the rule, set of rules, we have an indicator that says device ID. And this device ID can be used to send to the real destination. It can be, for example, LP1 on the dev UI, or here in OpenSCHC, we use also UDP tunnels. So we say you have to tunnel this information to that address on that port. Sorry, it's in IPv4. And so we have this, and it means that the core can identify the device, and the device, when it answers, either it uses the same technology, for example, LoRaWAN, and then LoRaWAN is in charge to send it to the core, or in the case of the tunnel, since it's on internet, we are using the address of the core, the IP address of the core we identify. So we can extend a little bit this. So the next slide, please. Pascal, can you? Yes. So in this case, we introduce the device IDs, means how the core can join the device, and we can also introduce a next stop that say how the device can join the core. And this way, we can have something that is less symmetric. For example, we can have devices that have several cores, so that's the first case. And in yellow, we have a case of, for example, a device can be viewed sometimes, the communication can be viewed up or down, depending the way you select device and next stop in the rule. The only constraint in that case is that the rule ID cannot be shared between these two sets of rules. So this is a way to introduce mesh connectivity between devices using SCHC. So that's just a proposal that comes from the discussion, and I think we have to discuss more about that if it's interesting. No comment?
Okay, Laurent, so thank you very much. And sorry for my mic problem. The mic just started to work badly for this meeting, so I'll pick up a headset for my next meeting, but I could not reboot or try anything just now. So okay, so we are reaching the end of this meeting. Great thanks for everybody joining online or coming to the meeting. We've got a number of to-dos on the Sigfox side to validate the new proposals. Juan Carlos, a little bit of edits, and Dominic proposed to effectively make a pull request if you're willing to work that way. And the chairs will be asking for the workgroup last score, starting the workgroup last score right after this meeting. So thank you all, and meet you virtually at the next LP1 interim.
Thank you.